My name is Max Shapira, and I'm president of Heaven Hill Brands. I want to welcome everyone to another great day, not only in the history of our company, but in the history of the industry. And I appreciate everybody taking time out from what I know are extremely busy schedules to be here. But let me recognize a few people that are here with us to help us in this celebration. I want to start with our Congressman, John Yarmouth, sitting here on the left. Mayor Greg Fisher. The Executive Officer of the Economic Development Cabinet in Frankfurt, Civic Siren. And some others out in the audience, and I'm going to read your names and thank you all for coming. Mary Ellen Wiedervall from the Louisville Forward, Stacy Yates, the Louisville Convention and Visitors Bureau, David James, one of our Metro Commissioners, Councilman, and Kathleen Parks, our County Commissioner, Eric Gregory, President of the Kentucky Distillers Association, Michael Brooks from the California Neighborhood Leadership Council, and Jill Hawkins from the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Thank you all for coming. Well, another great day for bourbon, another great day for Heaven Hill. About 18 months ago, we realized that Heaven Hill was going to be in big trouble if we didn't expand rapidly enough to meet the growing demand of bourbon both domestically and worldwide. We all sat together and commissioned and budgeted approximately $25 million as an investment in the future. That's the investment that you see in these buildings behind us here today. It represents a large new still, represents a number of fermenters, it represents all the other infrastructure around that. And today we are standing here at our great famous Bernheim Distillery, which is now the largest single bourbon producing distillery in the industry. This investment expanded our capacity here by approximately 33%. We will be able to produce about 400,000 barrels of whiskey a year at this facility, and we are rapidly going to get up to that capacity as fast as we possibly can. Those whiskeys that we produce will join in our warehousing operations, the other 1.3 million barrels, or about 25% of the world's supply. They're aging in the warehouses behind us across the street here in Jefferson County as well as out in Nelson County. The expansion is going to allow us to continue producing our full range of American whiskey styles, utilizing the most innovative technological production techniques, but most importantly, allowing us to use and incorporate the traditional methods of production that have been part of the hallmark of our company for now over 80 years. We're reaching this tremendous milestone amid such rapid growth of production and sales all around the world. Now let's go back in time for just a bit to 1881. This facility sits on the grounds of one of the oldest continuous operating such sites in our industry. There's been a distillery on this site since 1881, and the Bernheim facility was designated years ago as DSP, Distilled Spirits Premises, Kentucky 1. The distillery has been a sort of a focal point for iconic brands over the years. Originally, Mr. Bernheim brought out a brand called I.W. Harper. Our Old Fitzgerald brand was and continues to be produced here. And it's been the home of the watchful eyes of a number of great distillers over a period of time, including the Bernheim brothers, our own legendary Parker Beam, and of course today, our master distiller, Denny Potter. In 1999, this became the home of Heaven Hill, and we recognized it as a fertile ground for our brands for the future and for the growth that we envisioned and continue to envision over the course of the years to come. But the real heart, the real soul, is the vision that my dad and his four brothers had over 80 years ago for Heaven Hill to be at the forefront and a leader in innovation and development as an independent family-owned company in this very iconic of American industries. We stand here today to honor that legacy that they began in 1935, along with the devotion to quality led by Parker Beam and all of our master distillers throughout the years. We commit 100% to continuing that legacy for many years to come. Now, a little more than 80 years ago, since the five Shapiro brothers founded the company, this is the largest expansion yet. Critical to reaching this milestone is the growth of our flagship brand, Evan Williams Bourbon, which is expected to be a 3 million case brand within the next year, the second largest selling Kentucky bourbon in the world, but along with many other brands, including our Larceny Bourbon, Elijah Craig, Henry McKenna, and many others. But it can't be done. All the work, all the success we have cannot have been done alone. It's through the hard work of hundreds of employees that ensure the heritage of our products, the quality of our products day in and day out. And also, it's only because of our community and economic partners who recognize the goodwill and heritage Heaven Hill offers that we are able to celebrate today in such a great fashion. Now, a second part of what we're doing here today, I want everyone to know as we continue to invest and develop our company, we recognize our place within this community and we celebrate the continued partnerships as we grow together. As our economic investment grows, so does our commitment to this community in which our distillery is located and where our employees work day in and day out. So today we're announcing another partnership with Dare to Care, a $10,000 partnership to bring freezers and mobile pantries to West Louisville in order to support hunger relief within this community. I'd like to recognize Brian Rindo for his cooperation and his assistance in getting all this project together, and we certainly look forward to working with you in the months and years ahead. Again, thank you all very much for coming. This is a great day for all of us, and we look forward to many more like this in the future. So now let me turn this over to Vivek Saran from Frankfort, Kentucky, the Economic Development Cabinet. I think he has a few words to say. Vivek? Thank you, man.
Good morning, everybody. What a real privilege and a real honor to be here this morning. And Max, where'd you go on me? There you go. You know, when you have the largest independent, family-owned and operated company in its industry celebrating a moment like this, these are just special times in the history of a business, special times to celebrate in the history of our community. And on behalf of Governor Bevin, it is a real pleasure of mine to just extend a warm word of thanks to you and for the investment that you're making. And you know, in Kentucky right now, the governor has laid out a mission that's very clear. Kentucky is going to become the manufacturing and the engineering hub of America, hands down. And when you think about a business like this and what it's producing, what's really unique, if you study the history of Heaven Hill, is that within 100 miles of this particular location, this company is also buying all of its corn-related products. And so what is fascinating about manufacturing and about being a producer is that it's not also about the jobs and the healthiness of the business right here on this location that matters, but it has an exponential effect within our community. And that effect is not only measured in the jobs that are created in other industries located nearby. But when a family-owned, operated business like this one is positioned to prosper and do well, what a great provider it is to our community. And that's measured in what it's doing with Dare to Care as an example. It's businesses like this that when they thrive, they give back to our neighborhoods. And that's just a wonderful example, a wonderful model to follow. And so we're real thankful at the state level for the opportunity to serve your business, to be helpful to your company. And as you all continue to grow and thrive, we will look forward to the days of continuing to be by your side and see that you do well. It's my distinct pleasure now to introduce a friend of mine, a fellow businessman, Mayor Greg Fisher. And Greg, thank you for all you're doing to make this city roll.
Thank you, Vic.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Vivek. Vivek was one of our original board members of our BEAM initiative. So that's the Bluegrass Economic Advancement Movement, which is the Louisville-Lexington Regional Economic Development Partnerships. Always appreciate your help in growing the region's economy. We focused on manufacturing at the very beginning, and we're seeing some of the fruits of that coming here today. But boy, this is just a fun and exciting time to be in Louisville. If you are at all interested in the bourbon industry, for anything for that matter, we're going through a real renaissance as a city right now. But bourbon and bourbonism in so many ways is helping setting the tone for that expansion with the investment that we have going on in the city. And then, of course, with bourbonism, the first 365-day-a-year tourism experience that we've got going on in Louisville as well, which has led to the development of 25 new hotels under construction and a lot of the growth that you see taking place in the city right now. I just left an event earlier this morning and ran into some folks on the way out that were bourbonism tourists, and I said, well, how was it? And I always need to do that field research. And I tell you, without fail, when you talk to people that come to the city to go out into the countryside to visit our distilleries, or if they're urban bourbon tourists, I mean, without fail, their expectations are exceeded. I mean, why is that important? Because they're going to go home and brag about the good times that they had here, and their friends are going to come, and they're going to come back as well. And I think that's really indicative of what's going on just with bourbon in general. Max and I and Larry were talking earlier today. When you think about, some people say, I don't know, Max and Alan and Kate, this is a big investment. Are you sure it's the right thing to do? I mean, because, you know, they're planning, they're basically betting on the future. I mean, they're producing, Denny's producing, then we got to age, then we got to sell. You know, a lot of people would say, well, you know, man, let's not take that bet. But it sure seems like bourbon is still in the very early stages of what it's going to become. And when you take a look at Scotch, you know, bourbon is 10% of the global market share of Scotch. Okay, so we can double the bourbon business and still just have 20% of the global share that Scotch does. So if you're a business and you're a business person, that's a good spot to be in. So I think these are really wise investments that are taking place in the bourbon industry by people that know what they're doing and that produce excellence day in and day out. So as the mayor of the city, I got to tell you, I feel really excited and comfortable about these great investments, including this $25 million expansion that we're talking about here today, which leads to jobs, obviously, for production, more employment locally. These guys are a good partner with the Louisville Urban League for their workforce development here. So these are the kind of partnerships that make cities stronger. Also, what makes cities stronger are big hearts with people that own businesses here in the community. And I just wanted to thank Heaven Hill and the Shapiro family for just in the past year some of the things that they've done for our city. Max mentioned the $10,000 donation to Dare to Care and the great work that Brian and your team do day in and day out in our business. 2 months or so ago, a $30,000 contribution to Simmons College for scholarships and programs there. $10,000 donation to Portland Elementary, and a great strategic partnership with Reverend Charles Elliott and the Jesus in a Job program, and then James Linton Community Connections program as well. So these are all recent donations, and they demonstrate the type of commitment and partnership that Heaven Hill realizes is so important for our community. So I just want to give these guys a big round of applause for doing all that. Thank you, Alan, Kate, Max. Thank you, brother. And there's more and more in terms of their support for the Science Center, the zoo, the Speed, Fund for the Arts. If there's something going on, you're going to find the Shapiras in the middle of that. So just really impressive growth. Total bourbon inventory now. You can see Eric Gregory is here somewhere, I believe, the Kentucky Distillery Association in the back. These numbers roll off his tongue. 6.8 million barrels is our inventory in 2016, the highest it's been since 1973. There's now 1.5 barrels of bourbon aging in Kentucky for every resident of our Commonwealth, okay? And then when you think about locally, I mentioned bourbonism, but I'll close with this. The tourism aspects of this, let's see, in 2011, there were 0 urban distillery experiences in our city. Today, 11 are either open or under construction and have been announced. So that's almost $150 million of investment there. But as importantly, it's fueling this 24/7 tourism boom we have and the increase in jobs in our hospitality and leisure segment. So you're going to see a lot more of that coming on with the completion of Whiskey Row, the Bourbon District, most recent, very successful Bourbon and Beyond music festival. Had 50,000 people attend that over 2 days, and it was just a massive kind of global demonstration, not just of great music, but of our great bourbonism experience here with great local food, and then the whole bourbon industry on full display for the world to see. That's going to grow next year as well. So lots of momentum, good place to be, and it's wonderful to have outstanding companies like Heaven Hill and the Shapira family leading this charge. Thanks, everybody, and congratulations. We are fortunate to have the founder of the Congressional Bourbon Caucus in our presence here today. In an age where we all agree bipartisanship is important, Congressman Yarmouth led that charge with the creation of the Bourbon Caucus. So please welcome America's best Congressman, John Yarmouth.
Thanks very much, Greg. It's great to be here this morning. Max, congratulations and thank you. I knew this was going to be a good week to get kicked off because I started at Shawnee Golf Course kicking off a golf event, and now I'm here with bourbon. So any week that starts with golf and bourbon has got to be a good week. And then I also realized that Donald Trump has not tweeted yet today. So no, I'm very optimistic this is going to be a good week. I don't want to make this too political, but you can imagine how good it feels with all the chaos going on in Washington that I'm home this week and have an excuse to drink before noon. It helps. As Greg mentioned, I am the co-founder and founder and co-chair of the Congressional Bourbon Caucus, co-chair it with my friend Brett Guthrie from Bowling Green, the 2nd District Congressman. And that caucus is dedicated to advancing the legislative priorities of the bourbon industry and also highlighting the important role it plays in our economy. And I have to be not so humble and say because of our bold leadership, but in all honesty, it's probably just the bourbon. The caucus has become one of the most popular caucuses in Washington. And very, very bipartisan. Rand Paul's a member, and a number of good Republicans as well as good Democrats. But in all seriousness, I can't tell you how proud I am and happy to be a part of today's dedication. This expansion is an amazing addition to an already stellar operation here. I think the last time I was here for some dedication was the first time I'd ever tasted moonshine, and I still remember that. But this is an amazing addition to our city and to the American whiskey community worldwide. I want to congratulate Max and the Shapira family and the entire Heaven Hill Distillery team for seeing this vision into reality and for making such an important investment in the heart of our city and in support of America's only native spirit. Louisville is already on the map as the headquarters of some of our nation's finest distilleries. We're the crown jewel and start of the Bourbon Trail and home to the Urban Bourbon Trail. I think I now qualify in my house. I have the requisite number of different bourbons. And I'm now proud to be able to say that we are home to the largest single-site bourbon distillery in the world. I have one quick story to tell, how much bourbon means to my life and how much Heaven Hill plays a role. couple years ago, I was playing golf with a friend of mine. He broke his driver on the first tee. This is the congressman from Denver. And I said, here, just take, I had 2 drivers in my bag. I said, just play with this one, and then we'll see what happens. So he starts hitting drives like he's never hit before, and he says at the end, I'm not giving you this driver back. I said, that's okay. I've got another one like that. We were out west playing. I said, I've got another one at home. Just buy me a bottle of Elijah Craig 23-year-old, and we'll call it even. And I was thinking that was a pretty good deal, judging by the retail price. So about 3 weeks later, Ed says to me, you sent me on the damnedest snipe hunt I've ever seen. My staff has combed the entire western part of the United States and cannot find a bottle of Elijah Craig 23. The only thing I've found is one online for $550. And I said, that's okay, don't do that, just pay me a little bit. But I was willing, and always would be willing to trade Elijah 23 for any of my golf clubs. But anyway, congratulations once again, and thanks for your dedication to good spirits, for your work giving back to the community, as Greg so well documented, and for contributing so much to our growth as a city. We go back to Washington next week, and in those moments when the president can't reach a compromise with Chuck and Nancy, or even with Mitch and Paul, I take comfort in knowing that in the solace of the Bourbon Caucus, we always reach agreement with Evan and Elijah. Thank you very much.
Good morning. We're actually going to be passing around some samples because I'm going to wrap this thing up with the toast. I think it's our Evan Williams, so our signature bourbon. Max was saying we're going to hit about 300 million cases this year. First thing, just like everybody else, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this morning. It's a beautiful day, but this is a historic event for this site and for Heaven Hill, my favorite part. Just a couple things. Max said we've been working on this for 18 months. It's actually been longer than that, because the one thing we were tasked with was to complete this expansion without sacrificing a drop of current production. So that's a very tough thing to do. We basically have built a distillery within a distillery. So there are a lot of people out here that have been a part of this. We're very proud of what we've been able to do and excited of what we're going to be able to do going forward. Me personally, I'm honored to be spearheading our distillation efforts going forward. Obviously it's coming on the shoulders of a lot of great distillers before me. But the main thing is I'm really lucky to have the team that we have here at Bernheim, because I know that they're going to protect the legacy of what Heaven Hill is all about and the brands we represent. So before we do the toast, we have a couple bottles that we're going to actually present. So let me set this. So Vivek, Congressman, Mayor, we have a bottle of Evan Williams that we've signed, so we'd like to present these to you now. Max, I'm assuming you already have one. I'm assuming you already have one. Okay. So, the toast. All right. To the future of Kentucky bourbon and Heaven Hill Distillery. Cheers.